right, well,
be able to do that though.
Recording. You're on?
You're on anyway? Okay, just in
Thanks.
case we're on. So I was gonna, you don't have to wait, we can start, just gonna find anyway. I know that Councilor DePietro is supposed to come, but, alrighty. So, we will call this, Council of the Whole meeting to order. It is 6:10, for the record. It is Thursday, June 14th, and we are in the Veterans Room here in Southbridge at the Town Hall. We will have the Pledge of Allegiance at our new flag.
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilor O'Clair?
Present.
Councilor Carrasco? Councilor Clemens?
Present.
Councilor DePietro? Councilor Manna? Councilor Morales?
Present.
Councilor Nash?
Present.
Councilor Steves?
Present.
5 present.
Okay. So for the record, Councilor Manna had mentioned she was not going to be able to make it. Councilor Carrasco sent an email today that he would be out of state and not be able to attend any meetings from now through the 26th. And Councilor DePietro, as far as I know, is delayed because he mentioned a short time ago that he would be here. So we'll see what happens. We have just one agenda item at this Council of the Whole. It is to review and discuss the town manager's evaluation. You should have all received copies of everyone's evaluation, also tabulations, evaluation scoring sheets, and just a cover letter with that. And I'll just tell you what I've done, and what I've done with Kim, and what I could sort of expect or not expect tonight. You received a copy where it says, myself and Council Chair Clemens met and reviewed all the submitted evaluations and wanted to provide you the final tabulations of the manager's evaluations that we received, the final computations of those. Councilor O'Clair, 4.262. Councilor Carrasco, 4.101. Councilor Clemens, 2.113. Councilor DePietro, 2.665. Councilor Manna, 2.007. Councilor Morales, 2.879. Councilor Nash, 4.035. And Councilor Steves, 2.232. The tabulated average of all scores was 3.07. These scorings were as follows. 5 is excellent, almost always exceeds the performance standard. 4 is above average, generally exceeds the performance standard. 3 is average, generally meets the performance standard. 2 below average, usually does not meet the performance standard. And 1 poor, rarely meets the performance standard. We also had the option of an NO, no observation. And as we indicated and made sure that on the form, any item that might have been left blank would have been excluded from the calculations. And I'm happy to say, for the first time in a while, I don't believe any blanks were left. I believe everybody, from what I could see, and hopefully I didn't miss anything, either put a number in or put an NO for no observation. So therefore, in those sections where there was no observation, if there were, say, 10 questions, and 9 were answered and 1 was a no observation, that was divided by 9, not by the 10 questions, and therefore the percentages matched with, were more accurate and more in line. So again, I went over it with, I asked our human resource clerk to work on this with me. We complied with open meeting law in terms of when we posted the meeting. At that point, if someone had asked, all the evaluations would have been made public to them. No other evaluation conferences were held with groups of council or anything. So these evaluations were either given to me personally or sent by email to myself and Kim, and therefore I forwarded any emails so that Kim had them electronically. And I think it was just Councilor Nash that came solid, and Kim scanned and PDF'd it. So then it was made available, sent to all of you on Tuesday, and hard copied as well, but most people picked them up by Wednesday or so. I think that's pretty much the gist there. I chose not to summarize other people's, with the exception of the points and the grading. I felt that we're here to evaluate the manager. People want to talk about their evaluations. The manager wants to talk about something, that's fine. I felt that it was not my place to summarize everybody else's comments. That's for each individual counselor to talk about. There were areas of great value, and there were areas that, there were concerns. So again, I think that is each individual counselor's observation and evaluation to be discussed with the manager. I hope that those who aren't here take the opportunity to visit with the manager and discuss their own evaluations if they can't be here to do it with us. So, having said that, I guess we'll go from there. Whatever. And we'll keep it to your evaluations and not, it's your evaluation, your opinion, your evaluation, as I like to say. Councillor Nash?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only comment I'm going to start with is that I'll stipulate that what was provided to council by email and within the packet was what I did hand deliver. I verified it in case there was any discrepancy or if anything was missing, it was all there. My evaluation is near the back. I didn't put it on the top. But I'm happy to go through and answer any questions from the town manager. I think that the way that I look at this is that item 1 is quite qualitative, item 2 is more quantitative with scoring. So I chose to not make too many comments within the individual quantitative section, section 2, general management skills and application. So when I looked and made my scoring, I will also note that 5 years of college I did make a math mistake, which I'm very embarrassed about, so I'm glad that Kim caught it. I assume Kim caught that it was a 30 on item 1 and not a 32 as I had scored. So it did change my score a little bit.
If I might just say too, the reason you have an extra sheet is because sometimes we kept it to no rounding. We went 3 points out. We went over these numbers for like an hour and a half of just the numbers, just continue. And she tabulated them. She kept all the tabulation sheets for them. And we felt that while some differed, even mine differed within a point or so, what came up in that joint effort is what is on here. If somebody wants to argue that, then that's fine too. But I think we did it like over and over and over.
Certainly. I think
Just
that
that was thorough.
I think as a matter of practice going forward, it would be nice to. I appreciate the consistency that was shown here with the significant digits of 3 beyond the decimal, but I would think that ought to be something that ought to be very clear going forward. Just per chance someone's score comes out to say a 2.945 or 2.949. Is that a 2.9 or is it a 2.95? You know what I mean? I think that ultimately being clear on how the document's going to be scored, being a scientific sort, that would be my preference, and that isn't accounted for in our evaluation, but I think it's a topic for the next council when we consider the next set of evaluations. All right?
Right, you can decide if you want to round up on the second digit or the third digit.
Exactly.
I can tell you that it's interesting with the points that it takes a lot to change the, when you're doing the number, it's just amazing that when you go 3 digits, a whole bunch of things, it stays.
That is true.
It's quite interesting.
Statistically, I couldn't agree more. Likewise with some of the scoring, it doesn't say anywhere within the evaluation that we could use decimals on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scale. So I know that some folks use decimals. I chose not to. I chose to use whole numbers. Maybe we ought to make an adjustment to the evaluation in that going forward. I have no problem with people using decimals, but it's not clearly stated that that should be an option. I mean, maybe there was one that could have done a 3.8 instead of a 4, or a 2.5 instead of a 3. So I chose not to. I chose to stick with a scale that was clearly stated on the evaluation, which is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with no decimal or fractions. Overall, I'll state that I'm very, very much satisfied with the town manager. I think that's evident by the score that I've chosen to arrive at. I didn't design my scoring to arrive at a 4.03 or whatever it was. I actually looked at it quite objectively. I feel as though I have plenty of personal dealings with the town manager day in and day out. Well, not personal, one-on-one, because I am around a lot. I make myself very available and apparent, as do other counselors, at a lot of meetings that the manager attends. I call him frequently with questions, requests for information, and I find that he's very, very reasonable in obtaining it and sending it to me. So when I've made my evaluation, that has gone into my assessment. I think qualitatively there are some things that within my evaluation I'd like to see a little more work on, and the first one that comes to mind is item 2, capital improvements program. I know that with what was presented to us, the town manager thought it was a better document. I do think it's better than what I've seen in the past. But I'd still like to see a lot more energy and effort into that plan to be much more comprehensive, and also to account for real dollars that we have available for a capital plan. I'll skip through here, and I know that some of these, while they're goals and objectives, I'll take, the Spanish translation, I don't know which number it is a little bit of a controversial topic, because I pushed for that, as some of you might recall, when we were designing the goals and objectives. I've actually asked many people myself on how to get that accomplished, and I haven't been satisfied with any of the answers. However, I did read the memo that the town manager put forth, and it more than satisfied me as far as I was concerned. If we don't have available funds or resources to give to the town manager, it's kind of hard to grade him any lower than I did, in my opinion, and that's why I graded him favorably. I also, I think on the qualitative side, am someone with management experience, leadership experience, that same sort of training through paramilitary education and leadership of young men and women in the cadet regiment at Mass Maritime Academy, so I might have a little different perspective than others on the council. But I find that delegation is a very critical component of any manager within a municipal environment. So a lot of my assessments are based on the fact that he does delegate, and he delegates fairly effectively to accomplish the goals that we have given him. I found nowhere in the charter or in any other documents that I reviewed, and I can't tell you which ones there were, many moons ago now, where delegation was a strike against the manager. I find that he does it very well, and whether or not it's efficient or effective is definitely an individual decision. However, to accomplish our day in, day out operations and to get the work done that we need, it's been my opinion that the town manager does that effectively. That goes into my qualitative analysis. When I look over at the quantitative, and forgive me if people don't agree, but that's how I looked at part 2. You have so darn many numbers. It's definitely a quantitative overall assessment when you're dividing by 7, 5, 2, 7, 11, 13. You know, there's a lot of material that we put into our evaluation. You can get a general sense for qualitative analysis at the very end of it, but I chose within my evaluation, Mr. Town Manager, to simply stick to the points. Did you meet my expectations? Yes, absolutely. And that is clearly stated. I hope you've seen that in the evaluation. I will go right out on a limb here and say it was my opinion that he is by far the best person that we've seen in many moons around here dealing with the media. He has a very good presence. He absolutely knows how to work the camera, but also to provide the information that the media needs to provide a good story. And you represent the town very well in those circumstances. I'm very satisfied with most of his characteristics. I think the lowest I gave was a 4. More than satisfied with everything that's stated there. Likewise, I had one area that I did ask for, or I did put an average score under communication, and that is for, does the manager refer citizens' concerns to the council in a timely manner? I would prefer that when citizens call or email, a lot of those ought to be delegated right through to the council rather than direct address. And I know that you're a responsive person, and I think sometimes you do deal with people. You're a people person. That's a credit, that's a highlight, that's an attribute. But in this role, I would prefer that more communication come to the council when citizen concerns aren't directly sent to the council. Management skills more than adequate. I think that we could all use a little more work in making sure that we're comfortable with the town charter and bylaws. There are 1 or 2 examples of councilors, in my opinion, that do very well. But I would like to see a little more effort and attention, and that's why I graded you just as an average. Financial acumen, this is one area where I feel that you're more than adequate, but I would also say that we have probably one of the most talented individuals in the financial realm sitting down at the end of the hall. And again, as someone who is another great department head in this town, you are well supported with someone to whom you can delegate when other things take priority. Council relationship, I think that we can all agree that, again, this is an individual type of assessment. I'm more than satisfied. Then again, I have a lot more exposure than other councilors in some circumstances because I'm not working. I come to town hall to get my information because I don't rely on email as much as others might. I'm able to reach out through the town manager's office to get anything that I need whenever I need, and I get extremely timely responses. But I also think that a relationship is a two-way street. I make every effort to make sure that I communicate with the town manager concerns, questions, compliments, criticisms. So my assessment's favorable. Under achievements, I'm going to just point to the number 1 is actually labeled number 3 on here, and I don't think it's hard to agree that, you know, we've had some trials and tribulations this year. We've had some goals that we have met. We've had some difficulties, but I find that the town manager in his role has to be a resilient individual, and I find him more than satisfactory in a lot of areas, but at the end of the day, you have to be resilient. You deal with 8 or 9 different individuals as counselors, and you try really hard. And at least for me, I find that you've more than exceeded my expectations. I've chosen to not list any particular improvements to suggest, because I tell you frequently when I have a concern or a criticism, and I have no problem stating here for the record that one thing that I have asked the town manager time and again is, please let the councilors do their deliberation and debate, and let us do more of the talking rather than inserting yourself in some circumstances. So that's not stated on the evaluation, but I would like it to be known that I'm not just a big Ron San Angelo town manager fan. I do provide criticism when I see fit. I feel that's my role, to be open and honest and to communicate. So with that, I don't want to compromise everyone's time. I know we have 5 other councilors to get through before we have to go into a special meeting, but overall, I appreciate that we had an opportunity to review the town manager. I'm sure that there are others that may differ in opinion. I'm not here to criticize or question tonight in any extreme way, but I appreciate that we all do have differences of opinion, and I'm very happy and satisfied. I look forward to continuing working with you in the next session. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilor Steves.
Thank you. Several of the things. Well, first off, I think it was interesting reading through all of the various evaluations, and it almost struck me as if we were coming from 2 very different planets in some cases. It's no secret, if you've read all of my evaluations, I was not particularly happy this year. Last year I was kind of in the middle range of where I saw things, and it has slid over the course of last year. And it's really a few key areas that I'm particularly unhappy with. One, you mentioned the translation thing. I'm still very concerned about the fact that although, yes, the memo did raise issues about funding for legal translation, a lot of the other stuff could still be translated fairly easily, things like agendas and those kinds of things. And there's virtually nothing on the website in Spanish. That's not that big a deal. I mean, we could either, there are people in town hall who speak Spanish, we could recruit people to be a translation committee. I think I brought that up at the beginning of the fiscal year, roughly. And there are ways to translate these documents that don't cost a whole lot of money. We could go to college, we could go to the high schools. I mean, I'm not talking about I know we talked about doing the charter and that kind of stuff, and I understand and I accept that that would require some more special translation skills, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but some of the other stuff could still have been done. And then the road money, I made that a big issue at the beginning of the fiscal year. Nothing got done on that. And I think there's an issue there, especially because that was a fairly clear goal, and it was simply a matter of giving us some research to base it on what other towns had done to help fund their roads beyond what Chapter 90 does. You know, most towns use all towns use Chapter 90, and some towns go far beyond that. And that's what the goal was to see how these other towns go beyond that. And we didn't get anything from that. I was also very concerned about the property report because that came out very late. When we did that in August, or I guess it was September, we had set a goal on that for the end of October. It got pushed until it was either January or February. I forget exactly which date it was. And then Will ended up doing it. Yes, and that's one of the concerns that I have, is that a lot of the stuff that we assign ends up being done by Will or Karen or some other department head. And I think there is a very fine line between delegation and over-delegation. And I see that a lot of this is being over-delegated, that like, for example, I think of it kind of this way, that if you remember being back in college and you got an assignment and you didn't do it on time, you got flunked. Or if somebody else wrote your paper for you and you got caught, you got flunked and probably kicked out of college. And, you know, so those kinds of things really bother me. That I have a lot of respect for our department heads. They are extremely talented. And this town is blessed to have them, because I think a lot of the things that go on in our town are so dependent on their skills. Let's see. Also, I wanted to point out, and I'll just honestly, I'm just going to read what I wrote here as future developments and general comments, mostly for the public, because I'm assuming you guys have already. And I have to be honest about it. I think, and you know, I address this obviously to Ron, I think that you should very seriously consider finding work in some sort of a PR field or some sort of media where you can tap your real skills. You are very good at that. I agree with Rick there. You're very good at that. Because I've come to the conclusion that you don't have the detail orientation we really need in a town manager. You're a decent guy, but to me, I don't see that you're cut out for this job any more than I would be as a soldier. Nobody is good at everything. I wouldn't expect everybody to be good at everything. A while back, at one point, I know here was maybe 2.5 years ago, I don't know exactly when it was, you mentioned that you had felt that you were overwhelmed here and didn't expect it to be so much work. Unfortunately, it is. And as you've seen, our town has issues that really strongly need to be addressed. And that takes serious focus and a good sense of how to juggle tasks. And I'm not really sure you have it in this setting. Maybe there's another setting that you fit better in. Seriously, that's the way I think of it. Recognizing one's limits and skill base is not a personal failing. As I see it, it's wisdom. And you're a good guy, but I don't really think you fit in the corner office in this town. I really don't. I'm sorry to say that.
What's that, Council? Okay. Any other comments?
May I ask him a question?
As long as it's just come a debate.
I'd like to ask you to address your comment about department heads like versus respect. Mm-hmm. Can you please read that or explain it? Because I found it quite troubling.
I think it's.
And I'm not going to question beyond that. I'd just like to.
I think it just states what I have observed over the course of not only this year but last year. That it seems to me that a lot of people like Ron as a person. He's a nice guy. Okay, I like Ron as a person. I'm not sure that there is anywhere near as much positive regard for his managerial skills. And I think part of it ties into the overdelegation that I mentioned a little while ago. That there's so much burden being put on our department heads and other staff to get things done. For example, RFPs and those kinds of things that really are his responsibility to do. He's our procurement officer. And some of this stuff just, if it's being done, and obviously it is being done, it's often being done by Rosemary, or it's being done by Heather, or it's being done by somebody else. It's not being done by Ron. And that means we've got people who are doing their own jobs extremely well, and a whole bunch of other stuff that really isn't their job.
Just in the form of a question, I don't think I clearly asked it, but I would be more interested to know if, and you've stated it clearly enough, but the way that I read it, Councillor Steves, was that what I would ask is it just an observation, or have any department head said to you what you stated? That was what I was getting at.
I talk to people all the time, Rick. Between this year, last year, just like you, we all talk to people.
So I don't know.
And that's your observation?
And that's my observation. From what people say, from what I see going on, that's my observation.
Thank you.
That's my observation.
Okay. Does anybody else want to talk about their evaluation at this point? Councillor Claire. Congratulations.
Thanks. And thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I scored the manager what ended up being a average total accumulated score of 4.26. In my own personal experience, and this is coming with, you know, about 7 or 8 years of supervisory management experience in two different fields. I also recognize the importance and the impact that delegation has. You have a team of department heads underneath you who you consistently tap in for information. The sense that I get from town hall is that you have a good team here, and it is a team of people working underneath you and who, you know, you regularly utilize in order to successfully implement different projects and different goals that we have for you. I also see that as a great strength of yours. You know, I think that I mentioned it somewhere in my evaluation, and I think it's worthy of note that since you've been here, we have a new permanent police chief, a new permanent DPW director, a new planner, new economic development director, you know, a new building and health, you know, director and split of that office. So I think that, you know, with those positions that you've overseen, and the people that you've brought on board to help you run this town, that you deserve a lot of credit where credit is due, and that is somewhere where credit is due. As far as the goals and objectives, everything is pretty self-explanatory. The 2-year financial plan, I gave you a score of 4. I think that as far as reaching out to the state and looking for other sources of aid, that's another area where you do excel. I think that the memo that you sent out to council with where you identified different ways to potentially either save money or get money was adequate. I think that as a council and as a team, we need to continue looking for more ways to do that in more of a long-term setting. The inventory of town-owned real estate and personal property, there's an active and up-to-date list on the town website. I was actually on there just today to take a look. It's from April. It has some very useful information about all of the spaces that are available, contacts, and everything of that nature. So I'm happy with your progress there. I would like to see more updates, more regular updates on the fire station committee, along with, you know, I think that one area of improvement would be to be more proactive in updating the council, even if there is no news to report. You know, it's easy if, okay, you're taking a look at a goal, there's no update really, and there's no additional information to give, but at least keeping it in the conversation so we know and the public knows and everybody that there's an active focus on these items. I'm, you know, very happy with your progress on the master plan. I think that it's something that's top of mind for you and top of mind for your department heads. You know, I think that you've done a really good job there, especially with the substance abuse advisory committee. I think that that's probably one of your more crowning achievements. So thank you for all of that. You know, I have to say that every time that I've ever asked you for a meeting, a phone call, information, you've gotten me the information almost immediately. And if you don't know the answer, you let me know that you don't know the answer and who you're reaching out to, and you copy me on the response. You've been extremely, you've been very present as far as that goes, in my experience. So thank you for always having an open door. You know, everything else, you know, I think that you're doing a very good job as far as trying to move us forward in maybe not the best environment. I think for next year, what I'd like to see is an increased focus on getting rid of some town-owned properties that have recurring costs that don't necessarily benefit the good of the community, specifically 25 Cole Ave and the buildings down at the Globe. I'd like for us all to work together in finding a long-term solution to those. I'd like to continue brainstorming for ways to reclaim the river. I think that as far as replication goes, Putnam turned itself around in, you know, about 5 years, and we can do it too if we do it right. And I think that, you know, hopefully next year we can really start to tackle that. And also the urban revitalization plan that was developed in 2012. I think that we've made enough forward progress on the master plan now that, you know, we should take that out, dust it off, and really start tackling some of those endeavors as well. So thank you very much for all of the hard work that you've done this year. And I guess that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other councilors want to talk about their evaluation? So far, council.
Madam Chair, I'm very sorry I'm late. I made my best effort to get here on time. But the format here now is...
So Councilor Nash has talked about
Councilor,
his, Councilor Steves has talked about his, and Councilor Claire's just finished with hers. We're just giving everybody knows the scores. We're giving an opportunity to each councilor to discuss anything they would like to on that, barring reading every single line and, you know, spending an hour doing that. But if you want to, we can do that. The next meeting, I'll just wait. But if there is anything in your evaluation that you'd like to highlight or discuss with the manager, any concerns, any thoughts, your opportunities at this meeting or in private after, you know, at some other point if you would like to discuss with the manager. This is, so that's where we're at.
I tried to be as concise as I possibly could. My biggest thing is roads, roads, roads. And if we have a $500,000 proposal for Main Street, drives me nuts because there are so many other streets, West Street, South Street. Why are we going to Main Street with this kind of money if we have the money for roads? And this is, from year one, when I had the opportunity to first sit down with you and meet with you, this is my biggest complaint from most of the citizens. And that I would not be a proponent of, certainly going to Main Street with that kind of money. The rest, I think, in reading everybody's evaluations, I think we're all on the same page as far as going in the right direction as a council and a new council coming and working together. I think we're all heading the same direction. You get some smites and you get some thumbs up, and so I think we're all going in the same direction. But short of that, I mean, just that one in particular expenditure, I would not be in favor of. And I'm sure we'd have more conversations down the line.
Is that what you're talking about, Main Street? Just, we're not budgeting any money for roads on Main Street, so I'm not...
Well, there was a proposal.
Okay, this is what, okay.
Just letting you know, there is
On
no
evaluation, though.
proposal for any money budget for Main Street, Mark. If it was, there was some discussion of it early on, and then it just fell out and it never got taken up, just so you know.
But if I'm going to hammer you or anything, Mr. Town Manager, it's going to be
Roads.
the roads.
Councilor, do you want to talk about anything?
Sure, thank you. For you, congratulations to Councilor Claire as well.
Thanks.
I think my average was pretty fair. It's my first time doing this evaluation. I won't lie, I was a bit surprised. It's a bit harder than I expected. I have to think a lot in some of these questions, but I must say that you have great communication. I've reached out to you several times throughout the year. You respond quick. I like the flow you have with businesses in town. Like I said, I can set meetings up with you. You're pretty flexible. You can articulate yourself well. I've noticed as well that you attend mostly every meeting, which I think it's fantastic to see you at subcommittee meetings and council meetings. And the drug abuse task force, which is a big thumbs up from me. On the other side, I have noticed Spanish translation, as other councilors said. I would like to see a little bit more effort on that. Road fundings as well, ways to fund some roads in town, like every other councilor has said. Becoming a more business-friendly community. And like actually Councilor Claire said, more updates on the fire station. I think that's one of our biggest excitements lately, and one of the projects that I think we all want to see heading the right direction. So I think that would be great to hear more about that, seek or look for ways to fund it, just to move the project forward. Other than that, I appreciate your hard work. I think that also our leadership here in town, in the town hall, is great. I think you have a great team of staff. So just thank you.
Thank you.
So I'll make a few comments too on mine, because clearly my score has gotten lower over the 3 years. I'm in a unique position this year. I've said it to a few people that while I was vice chair last year, that was in limited scope, in my opinion, having been vice chair twice before. I also point out that people tend to put their credentials on the table, and I'll put my credentials on the table too, as a business major and all, and my experience in business. But more importantly, my 6 years in the town hall under other managers, and having been exposed to numerous managers, and how things are done in municipal government. And that is where, and what I have said for the past other 2 reviews, where I have drawn my conclusions and my observations from. So this year, again, unique experiences that I've been the chair, and having worked under former chair Kathy Nicola twice with other managers, there were some concerns that I had, and they're clearly indicated in my review, which, unlike some yes, some no, I took the time, a lot of time, if anyone reads the review, to make comment on almost every line item that I could. I would say 50%, maybe 70% of those individual scores have some degree of information attached to it, so I spent a lot of time on this. I also spent a lot of time on as I noticed in a number of other reviews, Councillor Steve's review in particular, there was a lot of input under the goals and objectives and other areas, and then final comments. So my score reflects, as I said, my interactions with the town hall, the town employees, all the town employees that I've interacted with, not always by myself seeking that interaction, but by them seeking my input and asking how things could be done and what we needed to do about a particular incident. In many cases, surprised when I was approached, because I would have expected them to approach the manager. But that's okay, because I'm happy to help the best I can, but generally verified before ever giving any advice on that. So communication skills, they're okay. I think it depends on who you are in council. I find that we talk about team players. You have a great team in the town hall, there's no doubt. We said that. No way, and I believe I state that somewhere in here, is this a reflection. My scores are not a reflection on any of the team, any of the department heads. My scores are based on what part the manager himself would have played with that team. I find that the manager is more of a cheerleader than a team player. I feel that he definitely needs to be behind the desk and understanding more of what's going on, rather than having to seek out the questions that are asked to him by other people. In my experience, a skilled manager knows the topic inside and out and can answer those questions, whether it's on the council floor or whether it's a phone call, which he is available to answer, or when I stop in. So I won't go through everything. I will encourage people to read the documents, but I will mention some of my comments and improvements for suggestion. So I put that down actually. In my capacity of chair this year, as well as my 3 times as VC, I have had an opportunity to formulate my perspective and opinions for this evaluation from experiences aside most other councillors may not see. I've spent a great deal of time, not because I've wanted to or demanded to, on town issues that should have been addressed by the TM. The TM needs to focus more on his administrative duties as outlined in the charter. He needs to spend more time reviewing the issues this town faces to the point where he is well versed to answer councillors and citizen inquiries without falling back on department heads at every meeting. He should be producing a preliminary council agenda based on the outcomes of all the subcommittee meetings he attends, bringing back directives from council and making sure that department needs are addressed in a timely manner rather than the scrambling that often occurs. At this point, you should be able to anticipate upcoming agenda items that occur on a yearly basis. He should be initiating progress rather than reactionary to pending issues the town faces. Neither the office staff nor the chair should be wasting time chasing down information he is responsible for. Never have I seen such a lack of follow-through, even in even with the interim TMs. It may be desk work, but it's necessary desk work. Contracts need to be presented complete and accurate. Requests for transfer should be fully read and understood before signing. All contracts should be read and understood before signing. The TM is supposed to have the skill set to manage the financial side of our town, but he has repeatedly not demonstrated that ability. The TM should set a solid work example by showing up on time and staying to the end of a workday on a regular basis. Communicating his locations throughout the day should also be a given. There should never be a time when staff cannot answer when the TM will return, as so often has happened. And according to charter and his contract, the TM shall give full attention to his own duties and not engage in other activities or appointed positions without permission from council. Yet he sits appointed to the WRTA without consent and has spoken during business hours at a number of outside venues. The TM needs to understand his role in Southbridge Town Manager as it pertains to charter and his contract. Those are my comments there. I think as far as performance objectives that he should focus on, he should acquire better procurement skills and take a refresher course, anything to improve. Review and embrace the charter. Focus on your job areas as well as financial areas to better understand what is expected of your job performance to serve the community better. And you need to continue to work on goals, especially ones that have had little to no progress. Exert effort regarding funding sources for new firehouse. Even Congressman Neal mentioned that to me at the SHOT event, that there are grants out there like the ones from our police station. So you need to seek out solutions and be proactive. And again, my general comments, I make it clear the evaluation is not intended in any way to negate or disparage all the hard work and accomplishments by our experienced staff and dedicated employees. It's based on my own observations, interactions, and conversations of town issues with many regarding Mr. Sanangelo and his overall job performance in his town as Southbridge manager. While many successful years as an elected official, the TM has had very few years of experience as an employee in a town administrative role. And thus my score, I believe, reflects that. And I don't need to get into, unless anybody asks, I can point examples, but I would rather not do that here. You want to discuss pointed examples? I would be glad to do that with you at any time. So that's my point. So Monique is not here, and neither is Councilor Carrasco. Councilor Carrasco was as we mentioned earlier, he had a lot of good comments to say. I'll mention that, and believed a lot of things were complete. So he was a 4101. And Councilor Manna had a number of concerns, but I will not address them here. That would be for her to address with the manager. That's a 2.007. And that's that. So, I think, Mr. Sanangelo.
If I may, first I want to thank the board for all of their comments, both good and bad, and appreciate the input. I got to tell you, it's interesting when I see some council members give me well above average and other council members give me below average. It makes it difficult for me to kind of sort out the differences, because it's the same issues and all of a sudden somebody thinks I'm doing a great job, others don't. It does make it difficult. So I appreciate your comments and your explanation. I heard a lot about my team, and I got to tell you, I got the greatest team I've ever had. And I've heard a lot of people talk about their background, right? My background is I got over 22 years of experience in local government and state government. I've served not a few years as a town administrator, but this is my 9th year as a town administrator. I worked on towns with much, my hometown had a $85 million budget 13 years ago, which would probably be equivalent of about $125 million budget now. I've been dealing with complex issues for 22 years and have worked with great people all through that. And it's interesting because I've never, up until really this kind of year or two, got negative feedback, particularly on budget areas where in the 3 years that I've been here, town council has unanimously voted for my budget all 3 years, unanimously. This year, for instance, in over a $50 million budget, we made $160,000 of changes just because we all agreed we wanted to do something with central dispatch. And quite frankly, I thought that was one of the greatest achievements of the board this year, because the board worked together. It was really nice to see the entire board come together to find $160,000 cuts. And I gotta tell you, everybody in the subcommittees and the board had a hard time doing that because our budget is extremely frugal. For the last 4 years, we've said to department heads, we're gonna give you a zero budget except for contractual obligations. And we've did it. And in the last 3 years, we made great accomplishments in the financial side of this town. We were using, we all know, $850,000 of free cash for budget. Absolutely poor fiscal management. That's fixed. We were using $920,000 of Casella money to balance our operating budget. That's fixed. This year we had to deal with charter schools, really a huge, almost $1 million issue. That pretty much was fixed in this year because we were frugal and tight with our budget. Budget acumen, I think we've done a great job as a team and had to make some really hard decisions. But our town left from what could have been a huge crisis with the landfill closing to where our fiscal position is stable, much more so than our school system. We are farther ahead. You know, when I came in, there was a very bad relationship between town government and the school system, to the point where one counselor said less than polite things and less than, I don't even want to get into what that was, but that relationship between myself and the school system has just dramatically improved to where that now is a partnership for how we improve the quality of education in our community. That's extremely important. When I came in, economic development, there was no relationship between the town side of government and our business community. I mean, none. I came in, there wasn't so much as an email on the computer system from one local business in town. Working with Rosemary, we created the business partnership, and that was me and Rosemary working together to create it. We rebuilt that, and now we have a business partnership that's working in the best interest of the town. Rosemary's now taken over that ball after we created it. It's her job now as economic development to move it forward. But there's life in Southbridge and the business community again. That's huge. Every building in this community now has all new lighting. It saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars by replacing all the lighting. We've saved electricity in every building in Town Hall. We did it, and at the same time we saved money, we improved the morale of the building and improved the lighting of the building. That's huge, right? When I came in, I keep hearing about a capital plan. So I looked for the capital plan from past years, and I found 2 pages here or 3 pages here about a capital plan. Now we have a full page, a full capital plan. Somebody said I should call DOR and look at their budget guidelines, right? I called DOR, and they told me who had one of the best capital management plans in the state was Mansfield, Massachusetts. They said that's a great example of what a great capital plan looks like. So of course, where did I go? I went to their website and I took their template. And I took the capital plan that was considered one of the best in the state, and I brought it back and I rearranged and put all the data in, and every department head I had engaged in that process to enter in their information for 6 years. And in this year in particular, how we get the funds. All those resources are dedicated from either free cash or if it was water sewer from the enterprise funds, that's in there. That is, I laugh when I hear, oh my God, it's not good. It's not just good. It's one of the best in the state, recognized by DOR, right? It's phenomenal. We came from almost nowhere to having a great plan. You know, it frustrates me when I hear talk about we need to do more to get grants. In the last couple of years, I showed you and sent you a thing showing we've received over $6 million in grants, $5 million from Casella, but we received 3 special grants from the Governor's Community Compact. We recently got the grant from Mass Works that helped keep a very important business in town and actually improved it so they can create a new expansion of their business in power supply so that they would stay here in Southbridge, protecting the jobs that we had in place. Right? That money was important. Me and Rosemary worked with all the department heads on making Southbridge a green community. We got $200 and something thousand for green community money, so we're going to replace the boiler systems in Town Hall to make Town Hall more energy efficient so we can save money, right? We weren't a green community. Facility management, nobody had any clue as to what the problems were with our town buildings when I took office. We had no plan. We hired a company and did a full facilities management study. Now that's all worked in the capital management plan. So not only do you have the asset needs of equipment and stuff that you need to run it, you also have all the facility issues. In our capital budget for this year, every single item that we requested, you voted for. You approved. And a lot of them are to fix the existing buildings that we have in place today, to make sure that we don't, let our buildings, our biggest assets, deteriorate. We've done a lot. When I came in the first year I was here, before I was in office, I sat in the audience and I heard, okay, we're gonna have no taxes and we're gonna borrow $900,000 to purchase capital stuff. And I sat there and I went, wait a minute, you're not gonna raise taxes. Taxpayers are not gonna have to pay the $900,000, plus they're gonna have to pay interest on that money because they're borrowing it, right? In the last 3 years, we've spent millions of dollars of capital improvement money to buy equipment and fix buildings. You know how much we borrowed? Zero. Nothing. We've done it by fiscal prudent management and improved the town, and then we don't have to worry about the long-term borrowing costs a lot of other towns do. Our free cash actually went up. First year I was here was about $1.3 million. Under Kevin, we raised that up last year to over $2 million. So much so, $2.7 million. We bought a ton of equipment and capital items that this town desperately needed. And you know what? Then we went in and we looked at the revenue assumptions and we tightened them up so free cash wouldn't be as big and we wouldn't have to charge taxpayers too much. So we actually kept that burden from being placed on taxpayers. I see great things in this community going forward, and we've positioned ourselves a lot better for the future, and I'm proud that we have, when I came in, as Kristen said, we had an interim police chief, an interim DPW director. We had no assistant DPW director, although the position was funded. We had a part-time town planner with very little experience in the town planning business. We had a part-time building inspector and a full-time secretary. Our staff is now 100% complete. And we had less officers, right? So now I have quality people in the planning office. Ken Comey is the best. He's awesome. He does a great job, and everybody recognizes that. We have a full-time assistant town accountant. We didn't even have that before. So poor Karen was up to her eyeballs in work she couldn't handle. We have that position in place. Heather now has a assistant DPW director, and we're carrying through more projects than we ever had before in this community. Right? We have a full-time building inspector, and now Andy and the building inspector can actually concentrate on dealing with some of these buildings that are being deteriorating in front of our eyes. And we're ripping down more buildings, and we're putting more people in court to make sure that they clean up their properties. I hope you understand that this town is making tremendous successes moving forward in so many different ways. And I'm going to tell you something, I don't care if I get any credit for any of it. I'll give every bit of credit to my department heads, because damn it, they deserve it. They're a great team. It's not my job to be the police chief and to do the police department's work or the fire department's work or Heather's work. Truthfully, I don't know how to fix a road. Mark, you could fix a road beyond, I'd have no clue. I don't know how to do the basic accounting and enter stuff into our computer system. It's not my role here. I think of myself more as the director of a choir. I can't play an instrument, but it's my job to get each of the different components of this town hall working together to be able to provide quality services. It's not my job to be the police officer or to gather all the properties that the town has. That's Will's job. It's my job to get Will to do it and to bring out the best of all my staff and to get them to work together as a team. And that's really where I think I excel. I'll never say that I'm great at any knowledge of every department. Don't want to be. It's not my role. My role is to bring people together and get this staff running. Your credit, when you talk about the great team we have, a lot of that is because, and the great things we're achieving, is because I'm bringing that team together to work together. I'm bringing the best out in those people and making sure they have the resources to do their job. That's what's going on. You know what? We have 2 new police officers. In spite of all our budget problem, we have 2 new police officers. We have 2 additional people in town hall that now speak Spanish. So when somebody comes in to get Spanish, there's 4 people in town hall that can help the Spanish community. Right? We're going to have a basketball court. That sounds silly to some people at the Henry Street Park. I can't tell you how many Latino children are down there and playing basketball and how much that's going to mean to that part of that community to create positive activities for the kids in this town so that they stay off drugs and they stay away from that thing. And Henry Street Park is so much nicer than when I came in town. You know, I'm willing to take any criticisms you have and I'll listen to them and I'll try to change and improve. But truthfully, I'm very proud of the work that this team has put together. So regardless if you give me a great evaluation or a bad evaluation, I know who I am and I know who my team is, and there's nothing that's going to ever take away the pride I have in those people. They've done remarkable work, and you know what? Regardless if people like me or don't like me, I'm going to continue doing everything I can to make this town better. And you know what? If it comes a day where you don't like the work I do, by all means, we can part company and we can go our separate ways. But I gotta tell you, I'll never, ever feel bad about the work that I've accomplished in this town. It's been the best 3 years in town government, and I'm proud of everybody to put effort into this. And we're going to keep making it better until my last day in Southbridge. And with that, I thank you for all your efforts and for your comments. All right, thank you.
Councilor DePietro.
Just very quickly, Madam Chair. Mr. Town Manager, you came up with a little bit above average with a few comments, which I think we're all going to work on in the future. But I think that it attests to itself, including some of the comments I made. We don't have a wow. And I'm just putting myself in your seat. If I had the 40, 50, sometimes probably 60 hours a week you put in, I haven't gotten a wow yet.
Okay.
That would be a 4. Give us something as a council. Hey, here's this, here's this, here's this. And we might all giggle at it, we might all this, or maybe that's too far reaching, maybe that's this, maybe that's... But that's your job.
Okay.
Throw something at us.
Thank you.
Throw something amazing. Hey, we can go chase this grant. We can go chase this. We
I'll
can go
give you
chase
amazing.
that.
We got $10 million grant to put a water line to Charlton. $5 million from the state of Massachusetts. $5 million from Casella to build a water line. It would have cost the citizens of this town $10 million.
Those were kind of...
That's a wow. If you don't believe there's a wow, that's a wow.
Those were kind of trickled down. How much of it did you have? I mean, really?
All of it.
Did you chase
every
those?
single meeting? I was at, and I'm the one that
But
negotiated.
did you
all of
chase
it.
those?
Yeah, it was absolutely chase those. Yeah, that's why we have it.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I
And again,
understand.
like any other position in the world, what have you done for us lately?
Okay.
All right, let's not debate
Yeah.
that. then.
Well,
We've got another meeting, but that's
no,
okay.
I'm just explaining my
No,
evaluation
we
and
got
my
plenty of
reason
time.
No,
for
it's
it.
fine, Mike. I have no problem with your evaluation. No.
Well, as I said, I'll stand by the fact that the team is great, but the lack of follow-through, follow-up, and yes, we've given direction to the point ad nauseum at times. Bring a pen, bring a paper, bring the information back to the office so that they're not chasing it down the next day. Be in office, not be out roaming the streets, and know what the contracts say and make sure they're coming to us accurate. Know what the charter is. It's been 3 years. Know what the charter is and know what you can or cannot do without permission from this council. And I'm not just going to get on any other bandwagon, so I'm good.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Is the meeting still here? Or are we going to move to someplace
Yeah,
else?
we're
We're in here.
We're still
Roll
here?
call, let's do a roll call to adjourn.
Counselor Clark? Yes. Counselor Clemens?
Yeah.
Counselor Clemens?
Yes.
Counselor DePietro?
Yes?
Counselor Morales?
Yes.
Counselor Nash?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Oh, it's good? Yeah.
Okay, 6 yes.
Meeting is adjourned. So we're going to take a 5-minute recess or so,
Okay.
and then we'll start the next meeting.
Yeah, I know.